And joining us now to discuss the cooperation between Turkey and North Africa further is Mr. Osman Nuri Önügören, Chairman of the MON Investment Group. Mr. Önügören, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you.
Sir, to start off, I would like to ask you, how are Turkey's foreign policy engagements impacting bilateral trade with the African continent?
Well, Turkish-African relationship has a new face now. If we look at it from the political economic win-win perspective, Turkey now has more than 40 embassies in the continent of Africa, and the flag carrier is flying almost all the destinations in the continent. So we are at the defining moment for Africa and the world in terms of bilateral trade and globalized supply chains. There are significant opportunities and financial support from international as well as African institutions for producing finished goods in Africa, and also the Turkish manufacturers and exporters seeking to vertically integrate their value chains should consider strategic locations in Africa as they globalize their operations. Our government is signing investment and investment protection agreements with many African countries lately, which gives us an advantage. And from what I know, very recently with the Zimbabwe and Zambia, the protection agreement is about to be signed.
So how has the COVID-19 pandemic and, of course, the ongoing trade wars between China and the U.S., how has that impacted the financial bilateral relationship between North Africa and Turkey?
Well, as we all know, during the ongoing pandemic period, Turkey has stood with not only the African continent, but all over the world by fighting against COVID-19 in terms of sharing experience and supporting the countries by medical aid kits and supplying them by medical aid kits. So this has a huge impact, of course, on what we call soft power in the continent. And also Africa will be the main focus for Turkey after the pandemic, since the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is creating a single market opportunity between all African countries with a population over 1.2 billion people, and which is about to double by 2050. So it will be to the advantage of Turkish brands to set up manufacturing plants in Africa to finish off intermediate goods products in Turkey. It will also be the key to capture and retain market share in Africa. So there will also be lots of opportunities for Turkish contractors and original equipment manufacturers to complete for constructions contracts in the continent.
And what can you tell us about how these relations might shape the region's geopolitical landscape?
Geopolitically, in our experience, we have been there for a while. There are two key focus areas in which business people require support from the institutions and governments. So if we are to remain competitive in the global player in the continent, from the experience that we have, it should be first to the level of playing field for our experts and enhance our competitiveness. So it's important for our governments to talk about the free trade agreements, FTAs, with strategic markets in Africa to compete with the global players. And also it is important for our banks, the Turkish banks, to support the businesses, the Turkish companies and the businessmen, and open at least representative branches in Africa. Wherever we go in Africa, we find the banking institutions of competitors, the global players. So in South Africa, where we have a strong financial system and the credit ratings, we find the Indian, Chinese, and European and other banks. However, we don't have a representative office of a Turkish bank in the financial capital of the African continent. So I think that at least one of our stable banks should have at the minimum fully representative office in each country in Africa.
All right,
to
Mr. Önügören.
increase trade volumes.
All right, Mr. Önügören, my last question to you is, as someone active in the business and diplomacy and having significant exposure to the African continent, what message do you have for the Turkish people?
Well, like I have mentioned, we have to increase our exports and enhance our competitiveness because the continent has very big global players like EU, China, Russia, and the US. So I think if once the free trade agreements signed with the strategic markets and once the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is signed, I think the Turkish companies will do very well with the support from the Turkish banks in those countries.
All right, Mr. Osman Nuri Önügören, thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.